welcome back. Right, time to paint it. After 3 videos of intense fabrication, absolutely flat out action, made that French tube. That's absolutely awesome. Leo, give you a look-see. You saw that in the last video. Absolutely chuffed and stoked, as they say, with that. Really happy. Going to talk about that in a minute, a little bit about the inside coat. I'm going to show you something I got for that. But there it is, 3 days or 3 videos and fabricated the Undertray. Nice and quick. It can be done, but honestly sometimes life gets in the way. But if you set your mind to it, you can do it quick. Today I'm going to bodywork this. It's time to paint it. So I've ordered the paint's arrived now. I'm going to buy a coat of primer over the inside, just to look after it for a minute, just to keep the rust from it. It's a damp day outside today and I want any bare metal covered. On the inside here, or the showing side, I'm just going to get some basic body work into this. Filler where it needs a little bit of filler, coat of primer, a few coats of silver, and that is going to be that done. But today I want to make it a little bit of a how-to. Not a how-to because I've done the simple skills on rattle can paint. It's pretty simple. You're not silly, you know how to do it. But I just want to cover a few of the do's and don'ts, things that can trash your paint job later on. Problem with paint work is you can inadvertently set yourself up for a disaster down the line. And as you all know, if you've been watching this build, I'm getting some pretty killer artwork done by my good friend Mackie Bass, who's also building a Street Fighter bike at the moment. And he said that the artwork is going to be many tens of hours of work, and I don't want to put the wrong ingredients and base coat and base finishes underneath, that when he then starts doing his artwork and put the lacquer on, it all lifts off and reacts and trashes all his hard work. That is at the very least disrespectful, and at the most it's an absolute disaster, and it's demoralizing for him. So he's given me instructions on what I need to do. I'm using all of my experience and abilities to make sure that I do this as cleanly and as meticulously as possible, so that the paint finishes I put on are permanent, long lasting, and will not let us down in the future. Right, before we get involved in any paint at all, it's body filler, fill all the little gaps, make it look nice, make my welding look better. Mixing board for your filler, and more importantly than anything, some thinners, proper, genuine, #1 paint thinners, really fierce stuff, because you want to get over that surface before you start doing anything to it with a really good, strong, degreasing chemical, because that's factory finish, it's all my greasy mitts, it's all the fabrication residues, and they're the kind of things, if you don't get them off with a decent strong chemical before you start doing the bodywork, and they're going to come back to haunt you later on. Right, first thing, always starts with a clean up. Like I said, has to be the first thing you do before anything else. So we often use the nail varnish remover, that acetone stuff, when it comes to cleaning paint surfaces and so on, because this is too strong. But when it's just bare metal, get that strongest chemical you can, get the thinners in there, and it will get everything off. This is laying down foundations for the future, so it's worth taking the time early on to make sure it's as good as it can be. And like all these things, it may look, before you start, like clean metal. Believe me, it's not. It's absolutely minging. There is micro dust in there, steel grinding dust, residue from the grinder and the sandpaper and the cutters and all the stuff I've used, so get it done. wipe it off with a dust and grease remover of your choice. I use Penny Pit Stop's nail varnish remover. It's an acetone and it gets everything off, all my gritty finger marks, all the dust, any grease, any residue of anything. And it prepares that surface nicely for paint. I'm going to put a big thick, probably 3 or 4 thick coats of that yellow filler primer on this now. And then I'll have to let that dry for a period of time because it does take quite a while. Probably going to take 48 hours to dry, so I'll do this thick coat of primer now. If you try and rub that down too soon, it just clogs the paper, you put scratches and gouges in it, and obviously any paint that you paint on from a rattle can is a mixture of solids and liquid, and if you spray it on, it's touch dry within maybe a couple of hours. You start sanding that, it hasn't finished sinking yet, and when I say sinking, I mean the liquid evaporates and allows all the solids to sink to a set level. So when you're sanding it, if it hasn't finished sinking, you're going to sand it, get it smooth, go away, come back, and it's not smooth anymore because it would have sunk more after you'd sanded it. So you shouldn't sand any thick primer or any paint at all until it's fully sunk and fully cured. So that's unfortunately going to cut this one short today. Just going to prep this up, get all the grease off, whack the primer over it, and then we can leave it to be done. And then in the next one we can get the finished silver coat, which will look good business. Right, there we are, drying paint stops play. I'm sure that if you're watching this channel long enough, you know the drill now. That's got to have at least 48 hours to cure, preferably longer. So we'll make it the next video. This is Saturday now, so we'll do that for Wednesday. It will get wet block sanded. Now, I'm sure that it's obvious because most of you know what you're doing. You're watching this maybe for entertainment, but if you don't, then I'll just explain. The alternating colours, the reason for going grey yellow throughout is because then I can see the colours as I rub down through them. I'm going to wet block sand it. Reason that this is necessary on this panel, and I didn't do it so much on the other panels on the bike, is because quite simply this is a flat panel. All the others are curved. Everything else on the bike is curves. Curves hide ripples. They're really nice. You can hide behind all manner of mistakes when you've got curved bodywork. But when you've got an absolutely flat panel, it has to be absolutely flat and perfect. Otherwise, any ripples will show up and make you look pants. So ultimately, that I really have to work on. I really have to get, not so much the curvature in the middle, but certainly the bit around the outside has to be absolutely perfect. Because when it's on the bike, when it's on the back of the bike, it's going to be seen at an angle. So any ripples are going to show quite clearly reflecting up off the ground. It's going to be a gloss finish. So ultimately, I really have to work on that. Use a block, which is flat, hard and flat. You use the paper wrapped and use it wet, and ultimately that then rubs the top. So the flat block with the flat paper, you get the curved ripples of the surface and it rubs the tops off. So as it rubs the tops off the ripples, you get to see the colours coming through. You'll see yellow goes through to grey, and then as you keep going down, that will go back through to yellow again, and then back through to grey. So you know you've gone down through 4 coats. That's the reason for alternating colours, because then you can count how many coats you've gone down through. You know how many grey coats there were. I'm going to make a note when I edit the video exactly how many there are, so I know when I'm down at the last layer of paint and I have to stop there, because if you keep going you're going to rub through the bare metal. Then you've got to spot prime it before you paint, then you've got to flat that primer. You really start getting in a mess there. It's best to stop before you go back to bare metal. So with that will get block sanded in the next one. It's got to finish curing first though, because like I said just a while ago, there's a lot of liquid in that right now. That liquid will shrink. The thickness of what's on there now will reduce as time goes on. So there's no point in rubbing any of it down until it's finished reducing and it's at its thinnest, and then rub it from there. Now if I have a problem, if I start rubbing through it, if it doesn't look right, then I'll just put some more layers on and do it again. It's a repetitive process. Once that's done, it will get 2 or 3 coats of silver. Then that and the tail that's above it, the curved tail, that will get some more silver because it only had 1 coat, if you remember. That will then, the pair of them get painted in the same silver, so the whole tail is in the same colour, and then it'll get put on the bike. And after that we can move on. That's then going to be call it done. I'm going to get a rubber strip. A few of you asked a question. It's going to have a rubber strip all the way around the edge of that. It doesn't matter. Loads of those suggestions we've had. Some of you said I should have curved it up at the sides, shoved it up under the sides of the tail panel. It doesn't matter, you're still going to have to put the rubber strip on the tail panel then. One of the other panels got to have it, and I think that's the right way to go. You can buy metal lined clip-on rubber strip that's really unobtrusive. It's only 5mm, very, very small, and you won't see it. Once it's all painted, it will be blended in, you won't see it, but what it will give is a lovely edge for that all the way around that will really be unobtrusive and disappear, and it will form a nice tight water seal so that nothing gets inside there. Incidentally, in the middle of that, on the other side, that's now primered over the filler, but I will be putting a sealant on that, like a polyurethane paint over the whole thing. In fact, all of the bodywork on the whole bike, everything I've created for this is going to get an inside layer of a waterproof polyurethane paint, just a rail can stuff that cures nicely, something like one of the stone chip paints or something, just to protect it on the inside from any corrosion. Certainly things like mud guards and fenders, and certainly that. I'm going to talk to a guy that I know about this. I think I can get this bumper paint. You put it on the fenders or bumpers of your car. It's a stone chip, it's soft. I've then also got a cross-reference. I've got to talk to Mackie and find out whether that's going to perhaps react with his paint that he's going to put on. We have to be careful with all this because we're putting different surfaces, different finishes, different chemicals. When you mix them up, one chemical can be stronger than another. You spray it on, the liquid thinners in that melts the paint underneath, and it all just lifts up like cornflakes and trashes everything you've done, and it's an absolute disaster. So it's better to check. Like so many of these things, spray a little bit on something else, a bit of scrap metal. I've sprayed a little bit of that yellow on some scrap metal, just on a little piece of scrap metal, and then when I come to paint, I'll test that first. It's just common sense, think ahead, and you prevent yourself having disasters which ruin all your hard work. Anyway, I'm going to update the board now because it's in a bit of a mess. I'm going to update the money we've spent because we've spent about another £200 since I last did that. And we are just on today, I believe we are on 375 hours. So let's just update the board and then we'll call it done. So there we are. Thanks for watching. See you at the midweek for the next one. And join us tomorrow for the prize draw. Ride safe, take it easy. See you next time.